Recently there was a discussion regarding Bulleid Pacifics on goods trains and whether this actually occurred. It certainly did. This video was inspired by a photograph in my book, Bulleid Pacifics at Work by Colonel HCB Rogers OBE. On page 59 we see 34029 Lundy on the Bideford to London meat train. The photo by R.C. Riley is shown here by kind permission of the Transport Treasury. It's a short but interesting train with containers and an insulated van. Here, my West Country Bideford attempts to recreate this scene for you. I'm so fortunate to still be in touch with some of the drivers and firemen that worked on steam-hauled trains, and while we watched Bideford in action, I thought I'd relate some of their stories and observations from the time. Brian Denton says, we used to see West Country class locos on freight up from Southampton area during the last few years of SR Steam. In reply, William Waters says, I worked freight out of Weymouth and Westbury and Bournemouth with a West Country class as a fireman. Vans mostly. If it was up to Westbury it would have been Channel Island traffic. Tomatoes this time. Paddy Kinsella remembers, don't forget the Tavy, fully fitted freight from 9 Elms to the West Country powered by Pacific, the sight and sound of which I will always remember. Us Guildford men usually had to wait in Woking Up Yard with the overs for 10 or more minutes because the Tavy had been signalled through the junction at 1:30 AM. The sight and sound of about 40 or 50 fully fitted short wheelbase wagons traversing the points at 50 miles per hour or more was music to our ears. About 180 wheels in all. It was orchestral. Now, while we've been enjoying those memories, our train has been held at the junction. I wonder what for. Well, in fact, it's 35024, Merchant Navy named East Asiatic, hauling a heavy milk train that includes a passenger coach and a van C at the rear. Rule 1 at play here because of course 35024 was rebuilt in April 1959, but the model is too lovely not to include. Now another steam man's memories, this time Jim Lester, who says, quite a rare event to have a merchant navy on a diagram freight working, unless something had forced one of the class to be utilised. The nearest associated work would be their regular use on the milk traffic up from the West Country. These were very heavy, fully fitted milk tanks and required a degree of expertise in general handling, in particular when braking. During the lift out of Salisbury up to Portland and beyond, they excelled with both their high boiler pressure and driving wheel dimension. That all added to their prowess. That's my opinion, based on 4 years, 1962, 3, 4 and 5, mainline firing at 70A. Back at the junction, Bideford and her train get the road to cross over onto the London line, following East Asiatic Company. We'll stay with the powerful merchant navy for a while, then wait for Bideford to catch up. Meanwhile, here is another wonderful memory, this time from Bob Cartwright. When I was in the holiday relief link at Eastleigh, one of our jobs was to work the 445 goods from Eastleigh Top Yard to Basingstoke. We usually got an S15 or a 73 standard on the 445, but one morning I signed on to find 34006 Bude booked on the job. Engine prepared, we went off shed to Top End Yard to couple up to the normal full load of 70 wagons. All seemed well on initially starting away, but it quickly became apparent that the loco's valve events were well out. In around 45% cut-off there was a sharp beat followed by a long, almost continuous roar from the chimney. The Royal Train was berthed in Micheldever Yard, and a notice had been posted telling drivers to keep the noise down to a minimum when passing. We roared past with the engine in 45%, which was the best she could run at, with sparks rocketing high into the sky and the engine making a distinct forward-aft surging motion. What the guard in his van thought we were up to is anybody's guess. On arrival at Basingstoke, Des Holly went to the running foreman's office and in no uncertain terms told him that the loco should be stopped immediately. We'll wait here for Bideford to catch up. Won't be long. Now we have one more wonderful memory, this time from Spike Jones. We had several goods turns with West Countries. One in particular was the 2130 Brighton Top Yard to Norwood Junction. Pull out onto the main line, set back to pick up the rear half, making 80 or 90 wagons. Stop at 3 bridges, set back into the yard, and split and drop off, then pick up. Run into teetotalers' sidings, up the gullet, into the station. Split and set back a couple of times to get them all in the yard. Light loco when it was by the goat house. Grub, coal and water, then turn, then light to London Bridge, tender first. Quick drink in the Market Porter Borough Market, then the 3:20 AM paper train to Brighton, stopping at Redhill to drop the Reigate van off, arriving in Brighton at 4:16, relieved in Platform 7. A big thank you for those wonderful memories from the wonderful steam men of the Southern Railway. Now for something from the same time period as Bideford. This time a lovely Haljan Class 33-2, or Slim Jim Crompton. Rails recently had a sale on for these, and I could not resist. Also it was something of a celebration too, more on that later. Here's a comparison between a Class 33-0 and 33-2. So the 33-2, the last 12 of the brilliantly successful Class 33s were built to the narrower loading gauge mandated by some of the tunnels on the Hastings line. They were just 8 foot 8 inches wide, compared to their normal sisters that were 9 foot 3 inches wide. The images you are seeing now clearly show the narrow look of the loco, and Haljan has done well in representing them. So why this model? Well, as some of you may know, I was seriously ill at the end of last year and placed on blood thinning medication due to blood clots on my lungs. As things stand, I've been taken off the blood thinners, and subject to a special test, I should be able to stay off them. So a reward was due, and D6596 is it. Latter day Class 33-211, which I worked on as well. D6596 was new to service on the 27th of April 1962. She was renumbered to 33211 in February 1974 and lasted until October 1993 and was finally cut up in January 1997. Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed that presentation. Weren't the memories from the steam men wonderful? To finish off, now is a lovely picture of 33202, or D6587 as she was in 1962, seen here at Stewart's Lane Depot with a working steam crane. I took this picture during my second man's training days. Cheers for now.